Quazi here. In 1891, a child was born, and as he grew up, he wielded a power so great that it would change the world forever. His name, almost unknown. His methods, absolutely sinister. He once said, "Our minds are molded, our tastes are formed, our ideas suggested, largely by men we have never even heard of." That man was Edward Bernays, nephew of Sigmund Freud himself and a master of psychological manipulation. Using dark techniques, he twisted public perception and shaped the very fabric of society, implanting desires in the minds of millions without them ever even realizing it. Think about it. In the 1920s, very few women smoked cigarettes. It was considered improper. But when Bernays was hired by the American Tobacco Company, he orchestrated a stunt during an Easter parade in New York City. He hired fashion models to light up cigarettes and called them torches of freedom, linking smoking to women's equality. Overnight, tobacco was shattered and cigarette sales skyrocketed. And then there was breakfast. Do you know why bacon and eggs became the standard American breakfast? Because Bernays conducted a study asking doctors if a hearty breakfast was important. He then twisted the results, pushing bacon and eggs as the go-to meal, and here we are still eating that combo over a century later. Edward Bernays was a puppet master, pulling the strings of the masses through repetition, suggestion, and emotional association. But why am I telling you this? What if I said you could take these same psychological tricks and use them to reprogram your own mind, to shape your reality, break free from societal brainwashing, and actually become the person you genuinely want to be? Well, the key lies in how you speak to yourself. Today, I'm going to show you how to reverse engineer Bernays' tactics, how to use the power of suggestion and emotional association to transform your thoughts, beliefs, and ultimately your life. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly how to take control of your own mind and speak to yourself in a way that aligns with your core desires. Ready? Let's jump right in. The first thing that you have to understand in order to reprogram your subconscious mind is the self-reprogramming cycle. This is one of the first things that I had to fully understand for myself that allowed me to go from being that employee mindset, living paycheck to paycheck, and just being programmed by society to seek a job and thinking and believing that this was the only way for me to go, to transitioning into an entrepreneur, being responsible for my own income and actually being able to grow that to 7 figures. Once I understood this, I was able to completely reprogram myself. Now there's 3 main parts to this, 3 main levels to this. So let's get started with it. Initially, you'll notice that it begins with a thought. It begins with an outgoing thought. Some stimulus is presented to you, which we can call a thought. When someone says, "Now is a terrible time to make money. Now is a terrible time to start up an online business. The economy is going through a downturn. It's a recession, blah, blah, blah. Now is a terrible time to buy a house. There's inflation. The interest rates are really high." That's what the sheep say, right? And we listen to it and we start to fear it and believe it. So what is it that takes that thought, a stimulus that we're presented with, and turns it into an actual belief that we hold to be true? Here's where it gets interesting. When a thought is met, an outgoing thought is met with emotion or a feeling, if you combine it, then it becomes a belief. Let's take a moment to reflect on this. When you have an incoming thought from your environment that says, "Now is a terrible time to start up an online business because the economy is going through X, Y, and Z. Therefore, I should really hold on tightly to my money and, not take any risks right now." You start to feel fearful about it. You're very, very afraid of what could happen with the economy, and you become very, very protective. This emotion of fear in conjunction with the thought of the economy collapsing becomes a belief. You actually start to believe it. Our nervous system can't tell between what's imagined and what's real. If we feel it deep down in our nervous system, we start to really accept it to be real. Both the unconscious and the subconscious mind, our whole entire being, accepts this as real. It accepts it to be reality. We become identified with it. We question all of the beliefs that we have except the ones that we hold to be true, the ones that we don't see, the ones that we operate from, the ones that are actual, real convictions. What's interesting though is that a belief can still be changed. It's not too late for a belief to be changed. As long as you can identify and be aware of beliefs or limiting beliefs that you're operating from, they have a potential to be changed. Now let's talk about what happens to the rest of this cycle when it actually becomes a hypnotic, unconscious rhythm and a way of living. Once you have this belief that the economy's in terrible condition, it's a terrible time to start up an online business, there is something in your subconscious mind called the reticular activating system, the RAS. Once it's held to be a belief, once we have emotion and thought together operating as one, your RAS gets programmed to notice more instances of where this is true, where this belief is true. So now you'll start to see instances occurring in your life where you get more bills and you get more problems, you attract more negative people who keep talking about how the economy is terrible, and it starts to fuel this paranoia. You start to notice more and more instances. You get more and more of confirmations. And once we have confirmations, the game is pretty much over. This then becomes a conviction that this economy is doomed to collapse. It fully becomes a hypnotic rhythm, like Napoleon Hill would call it. A hypnotic rhythm is something that we never question, that we can't really break out of. And unfortunately for a lot of people, because they've lived a certain way and they've lived unconsciously a certain way, they've held certain convictions to be true and they can't break free from it. There is a clear mechanism that allows us to break free from this, and in part 2 I'm going to share this with you. But for part 1, it is very, very important that you understand this self-reprogramming cycle and how it operates. To give you a concrete example of how I was able to use this to break out of that 9-to-5 employee mindset, initially I chose the thought that I wanted of me being an entrepreneur, me being a great video maker. Then I started to feel what it would be like to be an entrepreneur, to be responsible for making money, making sales, and also making videos, and these videos getting thousands and thousands of views. And then I started to consciously look for confirmation of it, which is what I will show you in this next part. Once you start to consciously look for confirmations, you change the inner conversations that you were having with yourself, the stories that you were telling yourself, how you speak to yourself dictates what reality you experience. Because who's the closest to you? Who are we the most open to? And who do we listen to the most? Someone outside, or the stories that we tell ourselves every single day? So we need to change what default story and what default conversations are happening here. How we speak to ourselves dictates what reality we experience. So this next part we have to understand is the affirmation confirmation cycle in order to break free of that hypnotic pattern. Remember before, we talked about the 3 different levels through which we go through. When it begins as a thought, evolves into a belief, and finally the nail in the coffin is when it becomes a conviction. The question becomes, how can we speak to ourselves in a way that can induce a permanent change in our lives? I've been obsessed with getting a permanent change, not a temporary one. I've seen so many people, so many entrepreneurs that I've worked with who go through revenue roller coasters. One month they do so much, they do 50, 40, 80K months, and then the next month they go back down to 20, 10, 0. They almost seem to self-sabotage. And I've always noticed that this happens because they have an internal baseline. In life, we don't get what we want, we get what we're willing to tolerate. They're willing to tolerate that 10K a month. Their internal thermostat is set to 10K a month. That's why they always return back to that no matter how high they go. It really has to do with the internal conversations that you have with yourself. I want you to think about people who are genuinely confident. Do you think genuinely confident people go around telling themselves that they're confident? I'm a confident person. They don't huff and puff their chests like they're a confident person. They don't need to tell themselves they're confident. They've already accepted this as true. Remember the conviction that we never question? I just am. I don't question it. When you've become one with the thing that you want to create in your life, the thing that you want to manifest in your life, you act from that place. When I am acting from this place, there is no separation. I don't have to tell myself that I am that thing. You have to tell yourself until you become that thing. And this is how we do it. The first part, how we get started with a new program, a new way of programming ourselves, is with an affirmation. A lot of you are very, very familiar with this, but we do it differently here because I've found that doing it this way as opposed to another way makes it more effective. So whenever I tell myself something, I'm confident, or in my instance, I'm a really good video maker. Initially, when I started off making YouTube videos, I was extremely unconfident because back when I was in middle school, I used to make YouTube videos about guitar tutorials. And one day in tutorial class, like where all your classmates gather around, someone showed the teacher my YouTube videos and they pulled it up on screen, like of me doing my guitar tutorials. And I just remember being so embarrassed. You know, I just remember that feeling of humiliation, and it kind of traumatized me. And then years later, around 10, 12 years later, I decided to start up my own YouTube channel. And I remember that trauma and it blocking me. So then I crafted these affirmations where I was like, Quazi is an amazing video maker. My video impacts thousands and thousands of people, and just telling myself all of this every single day. But when I told myself this every single day, it didn't really feel real. I didn't really feel like it was real, because why should I have to tell myself this? Why should I have to look in the mirror and try to convince myself of something? Because the more you try to convince yourself of something, the more you're actually telling yourself subconsciously that it's not real, that there is a separation between where you are currently and where you want to go. If I have to convince myself of something, it's not really true. Truth comes in realization, in seeing something for what it is, rather than trying to, disillusion yourself, right? So I began with that affirmation, but what really grounded it into reality for me, what really programmed the RAS and reversed that cycle, is when I grounded the affirmation in a confirmation. Now, I'm going to explain to you exactly what I mean by this. What an affirmation essentially does is it launches a new model of reality you want to experience, because chances are the affirmation that you're saying is drastically different from what you would like to experience. In my instance, Quazi is a good video maker. When I started off my videos, I didn't think I was really a good video maker. I didn't really believe it, because I'm just trying to get comfortable making videos. So I just told myself this, and I launched a new reality. When you launch a new reality, your RAS starts to get programmed a little bit. You start to see instances of both. Mostly your insecurities color what you're seeing, what you're filtering for. So you're gonna see more and more instances in where you suck, your perfectionism kicks in, and you're like, oh, but I don't make videos like that influencer that I follow. And you start to size yourself up against others that you have seen. But what you have to understand is that's their day 100, and this is your day 1. So what's the point? What's the use in comparing? I promise you, when I started, I was in the exact same shoes that you are in right now. I remember looking at others and feeling, oh my God, this is so overwhelming. How am I gonna do this? How am I gonna learn how to manage this many customers and this many business assets? How am I gonna learn how to do all of that? It will come with time. Remember, you're running a marathon, but a marathon is run step by step, mile by mile, meter by meter. That's how you run the marathon. You don't look at the end and you take it all in at once. So don't worry, it's gonna get there, but you need to be diligent and focus your mind correctly so you can move the fastest path towards that. With an affirmation, we launch this new reality, but now it's our mission to confirm and ground this reality, to be able to have that realization, to be able to see that this is true. One way in which we do that is we become biased. Most successful people, all billionaires, people like Elon Musk, they're kind of delusional. And I remember reading autobiographies of Da Vinci, Albert Einstein, and I remember one distinct quality they all had in common. Everyone described Elon, especially his ex-wife, described Elon as, oh, Elon has his own world, we're just living in it. His sense of reality is so strong, other people get drawn into it. In life, whoever's sense of reality is the strongest, everyone else gets drawn into it. Everything else gets drawn into it. Whoever wants it less is ultimately who controls the frame. If you want to control the frame, you have to need it less, but also operate from that place of positive delusion that it has already happened, that this is your world. How you do that is by stacking confirmations on one side. So in my particular example, when I made the intention to become a good video maker, I consciously looked at only the positive comments where people were saying, oh, this video is amazing, this helped me so much, wow, I really like this, and I blocked out all the negative comments. Even though noticing 1 or 2 negative comments really made me have that insecurity again that I had back in middle school, I made a conscious decision to ignore it, to accept it and ignore it. This too has the right to exist, but I am choosing to consciously ignore it. And I'm choosing to look at all of the positive comments to ground my affirmation of, wow, I really am a good video maker. Look at all of these views, look at all of these likes, look at all of these people saying that it was valuable, that it was helpful for them. And that gave me fuel to make more videos. So it can be very, very easy in your day-to-day life to get lost with all of the negative things and the negative stimulus. When you look at the news, when you look at everything, you have to make a conscious choice to ignore them or just stop looking at them. I remember one of my mentors, he had tons of negative reviews and comments online. And I asked him, hey, how do you live with this? Like, if I had this many negative comments about me, I would probably kill myself. How do you do it? He's like, I never look at them. I literally never look at them. I don't search my name online. I do none of that. Because you never want to waste your time with that. People are going to say what they want to say. And the first sign of success is when you get hate. If you're not getting hate, you're not successful enough. From that moment, I realized it really is where I'm attributing my energy. Because there's always going to be people who don't like what you're doing. And that's a surefire sign that you're being polarizing enough that you're doing something right. And even when I make my videos, I get tons of negative comments. They always get pushed down to the bottom because I think YouTube likes to keep it positive. But I never look at them. I just look at the positive ones and doing what I can do and serving how I can serve. And I'm not going to be perfect. And I often do look at negative comments just to see which ones are genuine and could potentially help me improve if there's a clear sign. But that's a different attitude and a different mentality I have. Do you see how that's working? I'm looking at it from the place of how can I become better? How can I take this positively? How can I spin this as an advantage? Okay? So when you have an affirmation, you launch a new reality. Now it's your choice in this new reality that you're launching to only look for the things that correspond to that affirmation by confirming them. An affirmation launches a new reality, a confirmation grounds that new reality with realization. When you do it over time, you could see my channel. I went from 0 subscribers, pretty much 0 views back in 2018 to now over 500,000. And this all happened because of the inner conversations I was having with myself every single day without fail. Now, what I want to share with you is a different way to craft your affirmations, because most people craft it in a particular tense, but I do it differently, and I have done it differently. And we've helped over 1,000 clients do this for themselves, and they've also seen that this has been a lot more effective than just crafting static affirmations. What we want to do is craft dynamic affirmations. So one of the biggest problems I noticed was I was telling myself these affirmations and I didn't really believe them. We solved that with confirmations, but also I noticed that the way I was telling myself these affirmations, I didn't quite believe them, but also it just didn't feel right. It didn't resonate with me. Once I really studied physics, this started to make a lot of sense to me, and also a lot of ancient yogic teachings. And here's why. One of the most fundamental laws of life is the law of impermanence, as the Buddha would call it. But more than that, as the scientific term for it is the second law of thermodynamics, the law of entropy. And it basically states that the chaos in any given system, with time, it is always going to increase. The entropy of any given system is going to increase. So if I spray perfume in a room, it's going to diffuse and spread out. It's not going to come back into the bottle. It is going to take energy to bring it back into an orderly state. So life is in a constant state of chaos. It is in a constant state of becoming, unfolding, moving from one stage to the next. It's in a process of chaos. You might be asking, why is this important, Quazi? Well, as entropy increases, we can't stay static. We're always becoming someone different, okay? We're always evolving and improving. Who you were yesterday is not who you are today. Every single cell in your body is dying and rejuvenating. Who you are today is not going to be who you are tomorrow. And this character not only changes with time, it also changes with situation. Some of my friends listen to my sales calls, they're like, oh my God, you're a completely different person there. Then they listen to my videos, they're like, oh my God, you're a completely different person here. And then when they meet me in person, they're shocked because they're like, oh my God, you're a completely different person. You have to have many different sides to you. This is how the ego is. Most people think an ego is bad, but the ego is like your shadow. You need it to function in this material world. And if your ego is not moldable, you become attached to one way of being and you say, this is just how I am. This is how I've always been. You're going to keep experiencing the same reality over and over again. What we experience is a direct result of who we are, what identity we're embodying, what character we're embodying at this point in our lives. I am one way with my parents. I am one way with my wife. I am one way with my clients. I am one way when I'm making videos. I'm a different person doing all of these different things. If you look at my videos, I even spoke differently. Right? So I'm evolving and improving. Maybe to some of you or someone watching, it may not be improving. But to me, I wholeheartedly believe that I am being what's necessary of me to be, based on what I want to accomplish. Our identity is always molded by the goal that we set. In psychocybernetics, Maxwell Maltz talks about this. He talks about the servo mechanism. When we focus our mind on a goal, everything else gets taken care of. It's kind of like performing a sport. If you're thinking about throwing darts, the only thing you're thinking about is throwing it to the target. You're not thinking about individual movements of your arm. You're simply just focusing on the target. Just like that, when you're trying to manifest a goal, focus on the target, focus on the goal, and really hold the goal top of mind, and everything else, who you need to be to achieve the goal, it will all get taken care of. You don't need to worry about that. So when I learned this lesson that I must be dynamic in my identity, it completely changed everything for me. And this is where I learned the importance of doing first-person affirmations, where you say, I am this and I am that, versus third-person affirmations. And I started to do affirmations in the third person. For example, instead of saying, I am a good video maker, I say, Quazi is an amazing video maker. And I look at Quazi as this temporary character that I'm embodying. You might be asking why. Two main reasons. Number one, life is constantly unfolding and becoming, so I will not be the same person when I craft a different affirmation. And every single belief that we hold to be true right now will eventually become a limiting belief. For example, if I say Quazi is very capable and makes 100 grand a month, what's going to happen when I want to make 200 grand a month? If I were to say I am making 100K a month, I would become really identified to being the Quazi that only makes 100K a month. It becomes a limitation. Every single belief will eventually become a limiting belief. This is why you have to be always ready to ditch the mask that you're wearing right now, to take on a new mask, or when you're ready to end it all and just become enlightened, you take off all the masks altogether. It's a game of masks, okay? I realized for me, it was a lot easier to dynamically grow at different stages in my life, different stages in my business, when I started to do third-person affirmations. I started to really see that at this point in my life, I am embodying a character. This is the character that I'm being. But beyond this character, I realize who I am. That's where we get into something very profound. The I am cannot have a definition. If I say I am this, I immediately create bondage. I immediately create attachment, and I immediately create limitation. Therefore, the I am is not constrained to anything. There is that awareness, that sense of beingness behind it all, the sense of witness behind it all. This witness is choosing consciously to embody an identity to function in this material world and do what's necessary. True freedom in life is not being able to do what you want and when you want. True freedom in life is being able to do what's necessary in any given moment in a joyful manner. I can do anything that's necessary of me. Something that I don't like, I will do it joyfully. Something that I don't enjoy, that's brutal, in terrible conditions, I'm not gonna be like, I don't wanna do that, I don't like it. I'm not gonna be a diva about it. I just simply show up and do it happily. But the reason I can do that is because I'm beyond identity. And that's what I want to be possible for you. Once you go beyond identity, embodying an identity becomes very simple. But you need to learn how to go beyond it first, eliminating this attachment to I am this and I am that. Instead, Quazi is this at this stage in his life. And you realize that this is who I'm choosing to embody at this stage in my life. This dynamic identity allows you to become moldable. We want to become moldable and adaptable, not static. We want to become dynamic, as life is always changing. And if you don't change with it, you're going to get left behind. Now, the other thing that I noticed was super important was crafting these affirmations in a present continuous tense. Because again, life is changing. There is chaos. There is entropy. So we want to craft these affirmations in a present continuous tense. Quazi easily generates $100,000 a month. Quazi gets hundreds of thousands of views on his videos. Not Quazi got, but Quazi gets. Quazi attracts clients with ease. Do you see what's happening here? This is a present continuous tense. Everything is evolving and unfolding. It's simply spontaneously happening. Here are the 3 keys that I'm going to leave you off with that I want you to implement right now to create powerful affirmations and use confirmations for yourself. Number 1, pick 4 areas of your life and create 2 affirmations, a 4x2 method. So the 4 areas are health, wealth, relationships, and spirituality. You're going to craft 2 affirmations for each, 2 for health, 2 for wealth, 2 for relationships, and 2 for spirituality. Put it on one piece of paper, all of these 8 affirmations, and put it right next to your bed and read it every morning and every night before bed. Why? Because this is the most susceptible time for you to reprogram your subconscious, because right as you wake up, as soon as you wake up, your subconscious is the most receptive. Right before you're falling asleep, your subconscious mind is the most receptive. There's a reason why Neville Goddard talks about visualizing your ideal scene, your wish fulfilled as you fall asleep. We're most likely to impress our subconscious mind, make these impressions at those 2 particular times. And I've been doing this for the last 4 years, okay? The second thing you want to do is write these affirmations in the present continuous for obvious reasons that we just discussed. And finally, you want to write them in the third person. Morning and night, you read these affirmations, you launch the new design. And what I want you to do at the end of the day, this is just for nighttime or even throughout the day, notice anything that corresponds to these affirmations. If you set a goal to become more of an attractive person and, someone of the opposite sex looks at you longer than usual and shows interest, treat that as a confirmation. Give yourself an internal confirmation that, oh, look, this is coming true. I am an attractive person. Look for evidence. Make it your mission throughout the day and at nighttime to keep some sort of a journal for confirmations. I keep a confirmation journal, and I notice all of the things that have happened that correspond to who I've decided to become, who I'm trying to program myself to be. This is very, very important. I would argue this is more important than writing and saying the affirmation to yourself. Okay, so now do you remember when I mentioned that the most powerful way to become that person you want to be, program yourself correctly, is to have a clear picture, a target in your mind? The best way to do that is through visualizing, but most people don't know how to correctly visualize. So when you speak to yourself, you fulfill the hearing sense. However, the most powerful sense that programs human beings, constituting over 70% of one's perception, is the act of seeing, the sense of sight. Human beings need a target to move towards. The most powerful way to do that is to have a clear picture in your mind of what you want to move towards. Unfortunately, most people do not know how to form this clear picture, let alone how to project it. In order to do this, you must master the art of visualization. In this next part, I'm going to share with you a 6-step visualization protocol to help you completely master this. Let's get started. So to begin with, this visualization protocol consists of 6 main steps. I'm also going to share with you how to implement this over the next 90 days. So there's a huge misconception that you only focus on the goal, you shouldn't think about the how, but there's different components of your life that you have to visualize. And I'm going to share with you exactly what those components are. To give you more motivation to apply this, I want to share a couple of client wins, our clients who've actually used this system and what they've seen. So our first client over here, I'll pull it up, is Joey. When Joey started with us, he was going through a tough time and making a transition to becoming a business owner. He was always in that corporate ladder and, working for someone else, but he had a tough time making money for himself and being an entrepreneur. So he was making a huge life transition. And after joining us, within a few months of working with us, he closed his first paying client at $17,600. And someone asked him, hey, curious Jay, what did you visualize that actually led to this outcome happening to you closing this client? And he shares exactly what it is. So you can see that he's doing a mixture here of focusing on that goal that he has, right? That long-term goal of him becoming an entrepreneur, but also focusing on this deal closing, on that visual that this project is going to happen, that they need me and that I'm going to help them get to the next level. And he visualized the precedent and the decision maker actually saying yes. So that's like a milestone goal that I'm going to share with you how to implement, how to visualize that. But also one of our other clients, Christo, he's a trader. When he joined us, he was barely making 1.5K a month in profits. And he went from doing 1.5K a month to over 25K a month. And Christo visualized something very, very important, which is viewing himself as a very, very successful trader. So there's different components to this visualization, and I promise you once you apply this, you're going to begin to see very big shifts happen in your life in a very short period of time. But the importance of this is all of these 6 components need alignment and unity. So you need to perform them all at once. And by the end of this, when I share with you the guide, you can bring everything together and have a cohesive plan for your visualization and to become successful this year. So with that, let's get started with step number 1 of the 6-step protocol. So the first and the most fundamental step before we begin any of our visualizations, the act of visualization itself, is to learn how to center ourselves. I've talked about this a lot, but people actually don't fully understand how to do this properly. So we're going to clarify it here right now. To center yourself literally means to see yourself as the source of reality. And Albert Einstein has a great quote that actually demonstrates this. He said, "A problem cannot be solved from the same consciousness that created it." When you center yourself, you stop being attached to that predetermined script. So if you imagine life as a series of slides, and right now there is a projector light that is shining on a particular slide, it's illuminating a particular frame of reality, and the one that you're experiencing right now, which you call as your reality, my reality, our reality. This series of slides is determined by the script that's playing. Now, what we want to do is take a step back from this predetermined script, because chances are you didn't choose this script. If you're experiencing a reality that you don't want to be experiencing, you didn't choose this script. Therefore, you must take a step back. We must get to emptiness and nothingness before we create something. We can't create something from a glass that's already full. Centering yourself means emptying your cup first so you can choose the script that you would like to play. So before we do anything, we have to get to a state of emptiness. How do we do that? To detach or unattach yourself from this predetermined script, there's a 3-step process. Number 1, what needs to happen is you need to breathe. And what do I mean by that? Well, if I'm breathing right now, there is the breath that's happening unconsciously, and my conscious attention is on this script and reality right now. What needs to happen is I need to watch my breath. I need to watch this process. This unconscious thing that's happening, I need to watch it. So watch your breathing. Step 2, realize that there is breathing, the witnessing of breathing. If I'm watching my breath, the in-breath, the out-breath, there is a witnessing of it. Now I can say that there is breathing as opposed to I am breathing. There is reality outside of me rather than, oh, this is just how it is. This script is unfolding. This problem is happening in my life rather than, oh no, this problem is consuming me, my life is over, etc. You fall unconscious to it, right? So we don't want to get dragged by the scripts and whatever's happening right now. We want to take a step back to say, I am watching it. I'm the watcher. So now you identify as the witness rather than the active participant. This is the most crucial distinction to centering yourself. To center yourself means to connect with the most sacred source of life, the witness. So we want to get into the witness mode rather than the active participant that's unconsciously getting dragged by the flow of life. Now, the final step is realization. What do I mean by that? We want to realize that, hey, there is existence. I see myself and I see my reality. It's almost like looking at yourself in the third person. Once you can confidently say to yourself, I see myself now and I see reality. I see the breath. I see everything that's happening. There is a watching of it all. That realization itself confirms that you now have taken a step back from the script. So once you're in that state, you may now proceed with your visualization activity. The first step to visualizing is to visualize the goal. What does that mean? There's a lot of misconceptions about the goal itself, but to visualize the goal means to begin with the end in mind. And as Neville Goddard would say, to think feelingly. This is absolutely crucial. The key is, when do we visualize this? The best time to visualize the goal is right before bed. Right before bed, you're going to visualize the goal that you have. Why? As you fall asleep, the 10 minutes right before you fall asleep, your subconscious mind is the most moldable. You can create impressions in your subconscious mind as you're drifting off into sleep. So if you visualize the goal, at that moment, it is going to leave an imprint on the subconscious mind. Now, the crucial part is it does not need to be a 10-minute long visualization or a 3-minute long visualization. What's most powerful is if it's short 15 to 30-second bursts of visualization, but you do it frequently. You look at different scenes that you would be experiencing if you had already experienced the goal. This is the crucial part. Focus on heart and mind unity. Think feelingly. You want to craft a picture of that final goal that you would have accomplished, that you want to achieve, and then feel what it would feel like once you have already achieved the goal. What does it look like? What is that sense of relief? The sights and the sounds and what you're feeling, what you're touching, everything. Make it as vivid as possible for a short period of 15 to 30 seconds. So now, here is a crucial distinction. If you are not clear about where to go in your life, you're going to be focused more on the feeling. Okay, so let's say you were in the position that I was at back in 2018. I was about to go into a 9-to-5 summer internship and take a full-time job in 2019, and I didn't want to do that. But I didn't know what I actually wanted. All I knew is I wanted financial freedom, I wanted to be able to travel the world, and I didn't want to be stuck at a 9-to-5 job. That's all I knew. So what I did was I focused on that feeling of freedom, the feeling of fulfillment, what it would look like if I'm not tied down to a job, if I can travel, if I can do what I want and when I want, and to kind of make the money that I needed to make to unlock everything. It's crucial that you don't focus on an amount of money, but focus more on what that money could buy for you, and then reverse engineer from that. So for example, I determined that for me to have everything that I wanted and to live life absolutely unbounded, I just needed 20K a month. So that's what I focused on. I focused on that 20K a month, and I visualized that 20K a month, but more so in line with how it feels to have everything that I want. So I imagined myself somehow, I didn't know how, somehow making 20K a month, waking up next to the partner of my dreams, traveling, experiencing freedom, experiencing different cultures, and just experiencing that fullness, that joy of life. Okay, so when you're in a deep, dark place where you don't know and it feels hopeless, just grab on, just hold on to that glimmer of hope, that little bit of light you see at the end of the tunnel. Just hold on to it. That's how you visualize. You think feelingly about that end goal. Now, on the other hand, if you're a business owner and you have clear goals about what you'd like to achieve within the next 12 months, that next milestone, next maybe 2 years, we don't know when it's going to happen, but you have that next milestone you would like to achieve. Focus on hitting that next milestone. So for me right now, this year, I'm focusing on hitting 1 million subscribers on the channel. Every single video that I put out, hundreds of thousands of people watch it, and we're getting tons of subscribers, we're getting tons of people working with us, and we're hitting our annual targets, right? So I can focus on that because I'm clear on that goal. And this is a smaller goal that I've set on the path of that larger goal of what I would like to achieve. But I can only get clear about this goal now because initially I focused on what I really wanted, which was freedom to grow every single day, to become better and not to be trapped. Does this make sense? This is a very crucial distinction. If you do not know what it is that you want, focus more on the feeling. If you do know what it is that you want, focus on that thing and the feeling. This is crucial. So that was the example story of mine back in 2018. When I visualized that goal of freedom and enjoying my life, I had the idea to start up a YouTube channel. Life pointed me to the direction of starting up a YouTube channel, and I figured somehow this would give me freedom, but I didn't know how. For all I knew, I would sell merch on this channel. But then one day, as I started making YouTube videos in alignment with visualizing that next part, which is going to be visualizing the process. Once I used visualizing the process, it led me to encountering someone who inquired for coaching with me. And I figured, oh my God, I could sell my coaching services. And I didn't even think about that. Once you visualize the goal for a certain period of time, this could be 30 days, it could be 6 months. For me, it took me around 8 months from visualizing the goal to finding out what that process is, which is starting up my YouTube channel. So once you visualize the goal for a certain period of time, as Napoleon Hill said, once you visualize it, life has a way of drawing you towards it. It is going to start taking you towards it. But the key thing is you need to keep that feeling and that image top of mind of what you would like to experience, that would set your heart free, that would make your life a continual vacation. And once you do find that way, once you do find the process, then you have to begin visualizing the process itself, which is that next milestone. So the next form of visualization that you need to implement alongside visualizing the goal is visualizing the process. A lot of people have misconceptions about this too, because you've been told, do not worry about the how, do not worry about it, do not worry about the process. I totally agree with that. Do not worry about the how, do not worry about the process. When it comes to you, use it. That's the crucial part. You don't see business owners who are successful, just sitting around and being like, okay, somehow it's going to happen. I don't know what the business plan is. They have plans, but their plans change. They're not attached to the plan. Just like that, you need to have a process, but you need not search for the process. The process will find you. And when it does, you have to be intuitive enough to recognize it as such, as an opportunity. You need to be open enough to capitalize on it. I can't tell you how many times I've seen people have a great plan and opportunity right in front of them because they weren't ready to receive it, because they didn't visualize the goal enough. They weren't open and willing to accept the gifts of God. They closed themselves off and those opportunities went to someone else. Countless times throughout history, this has happened. So this is why visualizing the goal is so important, because as you keep visualizing the goal, what you're essentially doing is widening the limits of your comfort zone. If you imagine your comfort zone before as to be a small circle right here, as you keep visualizing that goal that's outside of your comfort zone, you've never made a 20K month before, that's why it's outside of your comfort zone. This circle keeps getting wider and wider. And when it gets wide enough, opportunities that will lead you to 20K a month come into your worldview. And that's exactly what happened to me. And when I started visualizing the process, what happened was I moved towards that goal. So what goal visualization does is it gives you the process. And process visualization causes movement along different lifelines, movement along the script towards that goal itself. So remember this, goal visualization gives you insights into process. Process visualization causes movement towards goal. When you're unclear about what that process is, 100% of your time should be focused on visualizing the goal. When you are clear on what that process is, 80% of your time should be spent visualizing the process and 20% of your time should be spent visualizing the goal. This is a very crucial distinction for you to understand. Once you understand this, you implement this, you're going to get results. So goal visualization leads to the process and insights into what will lead you there. You'll get intuitive insights because your subconscious will be receptive. The question is, when do we process visualize? I know we visualize the goal before bed, but when do we do process visualization? And how do we do process visualization? I'm going to show you exactly when and how. So when you do it is throughout the day. Before you begin a task, you visualize how you would do that task. So to give you an example, in my case, when I had the insight to make YouTube videos, I'm visualizing myself planning the videos, filming the videos, uploading the videos, and them getting thousands and thousands of views. So I'm focusing on the micro outcomes, the micro results that I would be getting, which is views. And the views contribute to more people being interested in my services, contribute to me making more money and clients' lives changing, and me making more money will eventually lead me to that 20K a month. That 20K a month will lead me to that freedom and that life that I wanted to live. Do you see how this is working? These are all micro processes that ultimately lead to that goal of me living that life that I want to live. So this is what you need to do and focus on that next step. Process visualization is focusing on that next step you can take right now. The goal is second, third, fourth order consequence of the immediate input that you put in. If I put in an input, it might not yield a direct result, but indirectly over time, it will lead to whatever's held in mind long enough has to manifest. This is the law of consciousness. There is just no other way. So that is when to visualize, right before you do a task that you've had the intuitive insight that will lead you to that goal. So I visualized myself starting up the YouTube channel, making videos, and then I had a lady reach out to me for coaching, and then I visualized myself offering up my services for coaching and many people reaching out. Once I hit my first 3 clients, then I visualized getting 5 clients. I visualized getting 10 clients, 15, 20, 25, 30, 40, 50 clients. And then I went from doing, 5K a month to 20K a month to 100K a month to 200K a month. It literally compounds like this. Okay, so that's when you visualize. And how you visualize this process is quite simple. When you have an insight into something that you need to do, just like an artist, just like a musician, someone who's crafting something and building something, someone who's doing something creative, visualize yourself creating and feel good and feel proud of the thing that you're creating. So focus in. It's the same principle here, heart and mind coherence. Think about the thing that you're creating. And you might not be able to see the final work yet. Just like the artist, they can't see the masterpiece yet, but they know that they're creating a masterpiece. And they know it's going to come, the muse is going to come, they just need to show up. Visualize yourself in the process of creating something. And it doesn't need to be so specific in what you're creating, looking at the picture of the finished art piece, but the feeling of excellence, the feeling of you creating something great. And the more creative energy you have, the better you'll be able to create. And that's why it's called creativity. You're using it to literally create something that God did. Create this universe. So that's exactly what we're doing. We're tapping into that creative energy. And the more creative you can get with it, the better. That's how you visualize the process. You look at little bits and pieces every single day, every task that you have to do. How can I do it to the best of my ability? How can it be the best? And you visualize yourself, this being the best thing that you're creating. And every single day, in every single way, this just gets better and better and better. The YouTube videos I make, if you look at the YouTube video I made day one back in 2018 versus now, you can see the drastic differences. So that is process visualization. Finally, what needs to happen now, after you visualize the process, is we need to make sure that the results we're getting is permanent, not temporary. The number one reason people don't get permanent results is because they don't understand how to do this. They see inconsistent results in their reality. And this is simply visualizing the ideal self. So the final part to this trifecta of visualization before we get to parts 5 and 6 is learning how to visualize the ideal self. So I want you to think about this. Has it ever happened in your life where you've kind of achieved something, but then it just goes away? You haven't been able to maintain it. We've worked with so many clients, and I see literally that most of our clients who come in, they have a revenue roller coaster, right? In their businesses, they hit, 50K, 80K, 100K in one month, but then they go back down the next month. They don't have a proper baseline or systems to return back to. And why they don't have that is because they become one-hit wonders, right? They don't really take on the identity or that self-image or the ideal self. They never really become who they need to be to effortlessly make that money that they need to make. And because of that, they sabotage. They don't believe they're worthy enough to sustain it. Because of this lack of internal worthiness, they make a bad decision or they attract a situation in which their ad accounts get shut down and it just sabotages and just completely goes to shit the next month. And the reason why this happens is because they haven't fully stepped into this ideal self. They're still in that old person's body, right? They're still in that old person's identity. And a lot of the times we have clients too, and especially in weight loss, we see this. People quickly gain back the weight that they've lost because internally they've still remained that person that they identified with, that person that they used to be called fat, and they used to look at themselves in the mirror and not be satisfied, nothing was good enough. And so internally, they still remained fat, bullied, ugly, and not good enough. And so because they've never shifted that identity, you can use all of these all you want. But if an identity shift doesn't happen, you don't know who you need to show up as and actually step into that version of yourself, you will never maintain it. So to give you an example of this, just think about this instance for 1 second. If I wanted to identify, if I'm, let's say, overweight, and I wanted to identify as someone who is, fit, athletic, healthy. If I were the identity of a fit, athletic, healthy person, what does this fit, athletic, healthy person do? How do they eat? How do they live their lives? What do they keep? What kind of food do they keep in their cabinets? These all are dictated by my identity. My actions, what I do, is dictated by who I am. Be, do, have. If I identify as a 200K a month business owner, I'm going to do the actions that need to be taken naturally. It doesn't have to be forced. I don't need to tell myself, I don't need to ask myself, oh, what do I need to do? What do I need to do? Those actions I will attract towards me. The people that I need to be with, if I were this 200K a month version of myself, I will attract to myself. That is a natural consequence that you never need to think about if you just focus on this one thing of stepping into your ideal self. And I'm going to show you exactly how to do that. Another example of this, one of our old clients kept attracting narcissistic relationships, toxic relationships with narcissists. It was one relationship after the other. And when she joined a program, she stopped and really asked herself what was happening. And she realized that it was because of who she was being, she kept attracting the same cycle of relationships again and again. And once we helped her change that to step into a different version of herself, who has better boundaries, who is not the attractor of narcissists, give up that old identity and step into the new, what do you think happened? She got into the best relationship of her life. She went from being a single mom to now being in a relationship with a really great guy. And they are engaged now and they're going to get married. All of this happened because of her stepping into that ideal self. The question you have to ask yourself is, if I were to achieve this goal effortlessly, who would I be? Which version of myself do I need to channel in order to accomplish all of this effortlessly? Now, the key here is, most people, what they do is they try to change themselves. That is futile. You should never try to change yourself. When you try to change who you are currently, you're fighting with the past. If you remember this film and script model, the present is continually becoming past. If I'm fighting against the present, in a split second, I'm going to be fighting with the past. There is no reason to do that. There is no reason to fight against yourself. Simply choose who you want to be in that next moment. Project who you would like to be in that next moment. Always keep your sights forward, not behind. So when you project who you'd like to be in that next moment, there is no longer a battle. You're no longer fighting against an invisible part of yourself trying to change yourself. Just ditch this identity. Let this mask go. Take this mask off. And only when you center yourself can you do that. Before you do all of these visualizations, before you visualize the process, take a step back, empty your cup. Before you visualize the ideal self, take a step back, empty your cup, center yourself. And then choose in the next moment what you'd like to experience, what you'd like to do, who you'd like to be. We are consciously creating every single step of our lives. We are co-creating, and it's never going to go 100% of your way. If everything in your life goes according to plan, how boring is your life? It's not supposed to. It's supposed to be extravagant. There's supposed to be challenges. It's supposed to be better than you could have ever imagined. If only you surrender that to the highest power. To visualize the ideal self, you need to ask who, and you need to give up the focus that you have. I need to change myself. Something about me is damaged. Forget that. Just choose who you'd like to be in the next moment. And in order to do that, you simply just focus on the characteristics. If I were effortlessly achieving this goal of being the ideal weight, of making the kind of money that I want, and being in the kind of relationships that I want to be, if I am being this ideal self of mine, if I'm being the ideal version of me who's effortlessly achieving my goal, what would I do in this instance? If you ever find yourself at a crossroads with the kind of decision you need to make, if I were my ideal self, what would I do? How would I do this? How would I show up? How would I dress up? You really need to inquire and get clear on that. If you just do that, your life will never be the same. That will lead you to becoming this ideal self and attracting that reality like a magnet. So the next question is, when do I visualize me being this ideal self that's effortlessly achieving this goal? And the answer is simple. Every morning you wake up, okay? So we have three parts to this. We have before bed, goal, throughout the day, process, in the morning, stepping into the ideal self. So you can do a quick visualization where you look at who you would like to be today. Imagine this day goes on and you're living as your ideal self. Imagine you have a higher self, your guardian angel, or a higher self that you would be in the next 20, 30, 40, 50 years, or whatever it is, right? Your wisest, highest self. Just imagine in your mind's eye that this highest self exists. And imagine that you mentally today take a step into this ideal self. And that when you open your eyes, imagine that you are right now this ideal self. That's what you need to do. You center yourself, visualize that ideal self outside of you, then visualize you stepping into this ideal self. And then open your eyes and go about the rest of your day with just one question in mind. Before you do anything that you do, who are you being? I want to share with you one of our clients, Evan, who actually applied this and completely transformed his life. If you look up here, you're going to find one of our clients, Evan, who had a marketing agency. And when he started with us, he barely made $4.5K a month. After a couple years of working with us, he went from that to $52K a month for his social media marketing agency. And now he's on track to making $100,000 a month, and he's completely automated his agency. And now he's able to travel throughout Europe and do the things that he wanted to do. And this is all because he became the ideal version of Evan. And when he became the ideal version of Evan, his decision-making process changed. His priorities changed. He stopped worrying about little stuff he used to worry about and just focus on the big things, on who he needs to be to effortlessly make the kind of money that he wants. So now that you know this whole visualization system to center yourself, how to apply it, the next step that needs to happen is what's known as aligned action. This simply means we're taking action from the place of the ideal self, from the place where we are aligned to the goal, that this action we take, we fully believe will move us one step towards the goal. It is alignment with the process We've thought about this process and we're executing on this process. We've visualized the process and now we're executing on this process from that ideal state of being. We're fully in congruence with the highest version of ourselves. One misconception people have about action once they get into this mindset space in the manifestation space is that you shouldn't take any action. And that again is complete BS. You don't see all of the big business owners who are successful sit on a couch and visualize and hope things come around. It's like you can visualize and manifest a Lamborghini, but if you don't actually take the steps to go outside, turn on the ignition and actually drive the car, that visualization that you had in mind is not gonna come true. A huge misconception people have is that mindset and action are two different things. They are not. Mindset is inner action. When we have all of this, we're actually taking action. When you visualize, you are taking action. It's just a mental action. It's an internal action. You need to combine that with external action without worrying. Don't worry about what you don't know. Execute on what you do know. This is combining process visualization with taking action. If you know right now that you need to make YouTube videos, but you're not clear about how YouTube videos will lead you to starting up your business and making money, then just focus on making YouTube videos while you focus on finding something. Then your process visualization becomes, I'm visualizing finding the path that leads me to making money and getting that freedom. That's what I did. With aligned action, the two keys you need to remember is number one, who I'm being leads to what I'm doing, leads to what I'm having. So I need to focus on being first. And then from that place of being, what I need to do will naturally come up. And I simply need to follow that guidance. I simply need to execute on that. I need not worry about what is unknown. The second thing you need to concern yourself with is asking every single day, if I were this ideal self right now, how would I conduct this? What would I do? How would life look? Before you're confronted with any task, you simply ask, I am this ideal self. I'm living from the end. How would this look? What would I do? That's it. Those are the two things you need to remember to get into aligned action. Otherwise, if you go against yourself, you're going to feel this discomfort. When you feel this discomfort when you go against yourself, then you know for sure that you're not in alignment. Now, this discomfort is actually different. This inner discomfort is different from that bodily discomfort when you do something uncomfortable. When you're doing something uncomfortable, that's actually a surefire sign that you are growing, and that's a good thing. So to give you an example, even now, I have that old scarcity mindset sometimes that comes up from years of conditioning. Before I make a key hire for my company, before I'm about to make a large investment in a mastermind or a program, I'm like, oh, what if this doesn't give me an ROI? And now, in my mind, if I were this ideal self, what would I do? Oh, I don't care. Investing $50,000 in this mastermind, I don't really care. Because if I don't get results, at least I would have tried it. I wouldn't have been like, oh, what if? The greatest lesson you can have is actually walking through a door and realizing that that door wasn't for you. That's one of the greatest lessons you could take away, because at least you've ticked that off and you know that that isn't for you, at least even right now. Maybe it can be for you for the future, but for right now, this isn't the right thing. So you're not really losing anything. There's nothing to be lost ever. There's only things to be gained. It is just your perspective that determines it. For the next step, let's set a plan for you to implement this for the next 90 days. And I'm excited for you to start seeing results with this system. What I want you to do right now with me is to mentally commit yourself to applying this for 90 days, at the very least. I did this for 7 years, and I still do this to this day. So imagine what could happen if you did this for at least 90 days. So commit to a 90-day challenge. And what I used to do was keep like a journal for myself to keep myself accountable. And I would write down every single day what happened. So what I want you to do is go to the comments section and create your own thread right now, where you're gonna write 90-day confirmation journal, and you're gonna begin with a reply to it on day 1. I know that 99% of you will never do this, and that's why 99% of you won't see success. That's the unfortunate reality. It takes commitment to be able to do something like this. So I want you to commit to yourself for 90 days and actually stick to that commitment. And at the end of every single day, come to this thread. That's why I asked you to bookmark this video and save it to your watch later. So you're gonna come to this, we're gonna use this as an accountability journal. And every single day you're going to reply with the title, day 1, day 2, day 3, and share 3 biggest wins you had and 3 of your biggest takeaways that you had from applying this today. So we're gonna use this for 90 days, and I swear if you just do this consistently every single day, I'm so excited to see what's gonna happen for you in your life. So what I've gone and done now is I made that visualization guide. You can access that in the description. If you click in the description, that whole guide is going to be there. You can use that with you for the next 90 days. I was speaking to my team earlier this year when we were doing our yearly planning, and we have one main goal this year, to have 100 outstanding customer testimonials like Joey, like Christo, like Evan that you've just seen. Okay, that is our number one goal this year. And if you want to be one of those 100 customers this year that we're going to feature, I'm going to be inviting our best customer success stories to come on our Wealthy Mind podcast channel, where we're going to be doing a podcast together in person. If you want to be part of that, what I want you to do is click right here on this link to apply to work with us, to schedule a call with us. And only do this, please, if you're an entrepreneur. We're looking for 100 motivated entrepreneurs this year who are going to be absolutely successful and blow it out of the park. And an entrepreneur means you're at work for yourself. You might be a real estate agent, you might be a coach, you might be a salesperson, you might have your own online business, brick and mortar business, e-commerce, drop shipping. If that sounds like you, you're at work for yourself. You're making 5 to 6 figures and you really want to scale this year, then this is for you. I would love to speak with you to see if we can work together to help you get to new heights this year, so you can just schedule a call. A few requirements is that you have to be an entrepreneur, you want to make 6 figures and beyond by the end of 2024, and really what you're looking for this year is close mentorship with someone who's already done it for themselves, someone who's proven and has helped other people, and also you're looking for a structured method, kind of like this, to create your reality. This is great, but it goes a lot deeper than this. And it also requires personal tailoring to your particular situation. If this is something you're looking for, me and my team were super excited to speak with you to see if it would be a good fit. To be completely transparent, we get over 1,000 applications to work with us every single month, and we can take only around 25 clients. But please do apply if your application is outstanding. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in that application page. Till next time. Peace.